Okay, welcome to Taking Action. I'm Chris Colombo. If you like what we're doing, hit subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Most importantly, send the comments. I don't watch the shows, but I read them, and I do want to accommodate you. Any questions you may have, any criticisms, I'm open to constructive criticism. It's how you get better. Okay, let's talk about last week's picks. I was not happy with them. I put it as a minus, even though a lot of the things I said did come true. The first 3 weeks of football, no wise guy will really bet his handicapping, but he'll judge it by what's going on. One of the reasons is teams are not in motion yet. Players haven't played together. You don't know their rhythm. You can't go by preseason because they're not going to get anybody hurt. They're not going at full force. That's why you see a lot of injuries. Before I talk about the good things I did, let's talk about the things that got messed up. I picked the Patriots. They were a division game. They were getting points. I gave the edge to the Patriots defense. I also gave the edge to their special teams, which came to fruition. I never expected them to lose another cornerback. One was out, but they were deep in that position, but not deep enough to give up two. And that's why you saw what you saw. Had we not lose a quarterback, we might have been in better shape in that game because the defense was superior to Miami's defense. And we were still in the game. It went right down to that team wants to win. Everybody says it's a bad team. And have the losses. You can't compare them to the years of Brady. It was a different ever. It was a different team. If you even seen right at the end, you watch them do that flea flicker to the offensive lineman, and they pushed the guy right over and he just came a hair short of the first down. So even losing a cornerback, I was on the right side of that game. So I chalk it up as a loss, but something to watch in handicapping. Okay. One of the things that made me a lot of money in bookmaking is I would shade or fade my line. What that meant is, and I waited for it to happen, we were talking last week, Anthony and I said that I like the Eagles to win, but not by 7. So that's my natural instincts coming back. The whole world had 7. Every bookmaker had 7. I'd have put that line out at 6.5. So people that wanted to bet the game would have shied away from betting the 7 because you could take the 6.5, lay the 6.5, excuse me, not take is when you take the points, lay the 6.5, game falls on 7, you win it. Otherwise, you push it, and there's no threat of that being bought up. Is that a gamble? Absolutely not. My handicapping came to fruition. They win by 6. I would have taken all the money. I was happy about that. And I'm going to tell you why. The Eagles came to win, but they didn't tend to kill themselves. Vikings are a physical team. That's why you saw a lot of stuff going back and forth at the beginning. But at the end of the day, they gave the give-me-up touchdown. So that was a good game. It was nationally televised. I'm going to tell you a story, and this is how one of the times in my life where I was a mediocre bookmaker, I was on the rise, I was very young, and it was one of the times that I went to work for someone else. I had a partner that liked to shade the line too much and for no reason. And the Philadelphia Eagles were playing the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas was in their heydays. They were already going all the way with Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, great team. Didn't make many mistakes either. Very solid defense, very, very good offensive line, and a very smart quarterback. And you don't need me to tell you about Emmitt Smith. They play each other tough, but it was the end of the season. Didn't mean anything for Dallas. They had home field advantage. They were already winning, covering the spread. Another score would have destroyed me. They just need to run out the clock. They hand the ball to Emmitt Smith, and he runs right up the middle. I got the ranch on the Philadelphia Eagles. Everybody bet Dallas, just about them, the entire world. I took as much on that game as any game I've ever taken. Plus, as they were laying it, my partner was dropping it because he thought it was a bookmaker trap, and he got greedy. So not only we take it, people were double hitting it because he was dropping the line, and the line should have been going up or at least holding. Demand and supply. The more people buy it, it goes up. Less people, it goes down. So I'm watching the game, and he's chirping away, and he liked to drink. Look at this. So they went into the prevent defense. They figured that they were just going to run the ball or whatever. They handed to Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith, being Emmitt Smith, only had one speed: fast, hard. Goes right up the middle, and he runs 87 or 90 yards for a touchdown. Dallas goes on to win the Super Bowl. Chris goes on to take the pictures off the wall, unplug the phones, go to work for someone else. Lessons I learned from that: it ain't over till it's over. And sometimes teams play just to win, not to cover the spread. So one of the biggest things I got to do is consider when we are laying those points. That's why I'm very, very frugal with them, that you don't lose your money, win the game, but lose your money. Because that's not what we're here to do. Because I am a fan of yours, who is a fan of football. This week, we're going to be a little more careful. We're going to be a little better. This is the third week. After the third week, the lines get tight. Nobody can tell you what's an accurate line. The gambler has the advantage, and that's why you see sometimes 10, 11-point spread standing up. You're not going to see that as much during the regular season because people don't want to get their quarterbacks, their running backs hurt, their cornerbacks hurt. Because you see what could happen to an Aaron Rodgers. You see what could happen to a Chubb. You see what can happen. Quarterbacks, they're falling all over the league. And until they're in that rhythm, and then once they are in that rhythm, the line becomes tighter and teams come to win. Secondly, the Ram game, 1 second left, they kicked the field goal. So if you bet it, it would be a push. The coach says that he kicked the field goal because there was no danger of him running it back, because now the points count later on. 3 points wouldn't have made that much of a difference. I'm of opinion they bet the game, and that's what you're going to see more of, that handicappers have to pay attention to, and fans on a whole, because there's merchandising involved. Remember, it is a business. People buying your jerseys. So they no longer have to win to have a fan base, because there are 45 million people betting $12 billion estimated on football. I think it's going to be more this year. I think that's a conservative amount. So you got to remember, now I have to compensate for the teams that care about the spread and care about the fan base for betting purposes. Because when you push it to win by more, you can make a mistake. When you push it to lose by less, you can make a mistake or play better. So it's taking them off what I think is the norm. We're going to see some teams do it, some teams that don't do it. We got to pay attention to that. There's nobody that can convince me that that field goal wasn't kicked to make the spread push. Because secondly, you can get your kicker injured. Somebody can get hurt on the thing. You take a knee when you're winning with 1 second on the clock, because there's no risk of hurting your players. What if they go to block the kick? That's what they're trained to do, and their kicker goes down for a season. So that guy can put it in his pipe and smoke it, as far as I'm concerned. That's not a consideration a coach would take. And not at this point in the season, especially where people are falling down. I got an interesting guest coming up, Bob Hopkins. He was indicted for murder. He ran a policy, which is numbers, pick 3, pick 4. At that time, it was called the New York and Brooklyn handle. He had 200 stores. He profited about $40 million a year. He was, if not the biggest, one of the biggest in the 5-borough area. You will hear his story. You will hear where his money went. And what we really want to know is where our money's going. My next guest is Mr. Bob Hopkins. Bob's had a very interesting life. He's taken some twists and turns, some legal, some not so legal. But like I said, what is vice today is commerce tomorrow, or commerce today. Bob was hailed as the largest numbers man policy in the business. Welcome, Bob.
How you doing, Chris? Nice to see you.
Thank you. Glad somebody is. Okay, Bob. Explain a little bit to me what policy or numbers is and what it was.
Well, numbers started out where they decided to create a gambling apparatus. So they decided to use the horses or the mutual handle at the end of the day to create a number. They also created 3 numbers during the course of the day. So, for example, you would have a New York number and a Brooklyn number.
When you say create a number, what exactly does that mean?
Well, they wanted to have something that could be used to gamble on. Let's say this is why they created it. So the results of
When you say they, who is they?
the people who wanted to create a gambling operation.
Okay.
I don't know who actually, the individual actually.
My understanding, it was a Harlem homegrown thing
Yes,
in the black neighborhoods in Harlem.
absolutely. That's where it started.
And they started, and what they did was there was three numbers they wanted to bet on.
Right.
You could bet a combo. There's a bleeder, which is the first two, I believe.
First two. It could be the first two or the last two. Bleeder, I believe, means two.
Two, right. So it'd be the first bleeder, the second bleeder.
Correct.
So my understanding is this is what the government took over. Now they drop those balls. You see them come up. So 126 would be your number.
Yes.
My understanding is you would take the track parimutuel.
Yes.
That means total money, and the last three digits would be your number.
That's for the Brooklyn number. The
Okay.
New York number,
How did the New York number work, Bob?
they would add up the results or the payoffs for the first three horse races. They would take the number after the digit, the decimal point, that would be the first number. Then they would take 5 races, add up the amount that was bet on the 5 races, take the number after the decimal point, that'd be the second number, and the 7 races they'd add up, and the number after the decimal would be the third number. So that's how it got its name, 357. So the 357 was the afternoon number. The Brooklyn was the evening number, you could say.
The parimutuel.
Yeah.
And they did that so there was no way to fix that number.
That's why they wanted something that no one had control over.
Because unless you're actually standing there when those balls pop, how do you know?
You don't know.
You don't know. But you would say it was a more honest approach and more fair to the better.
No question about it.
Okay. Bob, what kind of volume would you say? You had 400 spots.
At the
They
peak,
have to have 400,000 spots, correct?
well, you have 400 spots. At our peak, they averaged out about $10,000 gross each. So that came to about $4 million a week in gross revenue.
$4 million a week.
Yeah.
Now that's significant money, right?
Yeah.
What was your profit margin?
Well, it was a couple $100 million a year. The profit margin for the whole company was about 10 to 15%.
So you
have to
did
pay
about $40 million a year profit.
Yeah.
If you had to estimate with their numbers, what do you think? And they're working on more than 10 to 15%. Would you agree?
Well, they're working basically. Their gross profit is something like 44%. They give 6% to the operator of the store, right? So they have to take their expenses of running the operation out of 44%. But their expenses are not a lot. They don't have to.
My understanding is the way they do it, okay? They charge, like you walk in, let's call it 7-Eleven. They walk in, 7-Eleven gets charged for that machine, that terminal, correct?
Right.
And then they get 6% of the gross of what they sell, right?
Correct.
You gave your runners and your stores 25%, correct?
Well, the runners got 25%, but the stores were on salary. That was the advantage to the neighborhood at that time.
So you paid the electric and the employees and all that.
The electric, the rent, the cleaning,
the insurance.
There were typically 3 employees. So the average salary would be about $850 a week for the total store.
So you were doing 40 million working on 12 to 15%, correct?
Yes.
They're working on 46%.
Correct.
So they would have done in excess of 100 million, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. But
with your operation.
In my operation, but they have.
Needless to say, the 7-Eleven puts this terminal in that they pay for. The store is responsible to pay the electric for the state. They also have to pay the employee that's ignoring, so they're really not making a profit, are they?
They get 6%. All their expenses come out of their pocket.
Right. So when the guy is not cutting the cold cuts or giving you your Slurpee, he's got to ignore that to do your numbers. So it's fair
Absolutely.
to say it's not even fair for the merchant.
No, not at all, because really, directly, there's no money that's being recycled into the community.
Okay. Uh,
When it was illegal numbers, that's those salaries were made by the people who lived in that community, and of course, they would spend that money and would get recycled, and it would be beneficial all around.
right. Correct. And you paid rents and you hired people and it went to disposable income, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you didn't have to wait online and hope to get paid. You paid right out, correct?
We would pay at the latest at the end of the day. If it was a huge hit, maybe the next day.
So you had controllers and accountants that did that for you. They were called
Absolutely,
controllers.
you needed professional accountants. It was a difficult job.
It was called a controller, right?
Yeah.
So you had your number spots, you had the place that you put your money, whatever. So on 400 stores at 12%, you were making
Like
about.
about 40 to $50 million was the gross profit.
So it's fair to estimate they probably have 400 stores per neighborhood.
I would think so. Maybe, yeah. I
So
think they take in over $1 billion. That's for sure in the legal numbers.
a week or a day,
No, no, no. That's for a year.
over $1 billion,
Billion.
a billion.
Yeah.
That's per state.
Yes.
Okay, so that's $1 billion. That's a $500 million profit. Now
Yes.
that's without take four, uh, uh, pick six, lotto, mega millions,
Oh, that's totally separate. Yeah.
scratchies. So
Yeah.
they're doing pretty good, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Making a fortune. And also, they have the opportunity to limit a number. In other words, if
They shut it down.
too many people bet on triple sevens, if they see it in the big red or big blue or something, and they use their confirmation bias, oh, I saw the seven followed by another seven. If everybody plays that, right, they shut the number down. You can't play that number. So
And if they get so much on a number, they shut it down. So that's
Yeah.
not fair, is it, Rob?
No, because you may be playing triple sevens for 5 years in a row and never hit. Then, an airplane crashes or something with a triple sevens on it. Everybody plays triple sevens, but they block you out because they don't want to lose any money that day.
So it's a rigged game.
Yeah,
Well, there's competition in this business.
absolutely. There's a book that I'm in called La Corporation, which has to do with an organization run by, he's deceased now, so we can mention him, Jose Miguel Battle. And he was a Cuban refugee, really interesting guy.
How did he die, Bob?
He died natural death in prison,
Yes.
but he
Did
did
he
a
go to
lot
jail
of work.
for numbers, Bob?
Yeah, he had his. It was now their company was called the Corporation. Our company was called the Company.
Yes.
So a minor distinction, but they probably did equal amount of business to us, maybe a little less.
Yes.
But they did a lot of money there. They had a lot of money.
And he went to jail for this.
Yeah, he went for jail for numerous things.
But this was the basis of it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Bob, if you had to say what was better for the community when you ran it and other people ran it, or
Well, I don't think there's any doubt it was better for the community when we ran it. I mean, again, it was community-oriented business. Of course, the people bet their numbers like they do now, but we had workers. We rented stores. We kept the action lively. The money was recycled through the local community. Now, do you know where the money goes? I don't know where it goes.
I was told went towards keeping a school taxes low. Mine is going up exponentially. And I was also told it was supposed to be recycled for the kids in the schools. I don't see that happening.
Well, you know that the tolls for bridges, initially, when they requested the tolls, the agreement was the tolls were going to be there to pay for the construction of the bridge and then maybe for the maintenance. But now that money goes into a slush fund. So
basically, it's part of a skim.
Yeah. Once the money goes out, it's typical to the money that goes to Ukraine, right? Where's the money we sent? $100-something billion. Where is it?
See, that's always concerned me because I knew the kind of monies that were in policy and numbers. Okay, the odds are when you walk into a store and you pay $1 ticket on the number straight, if it hits, like if I play 222, I bet $1. It hits, I get $500.
No, in the stores you get $600 because there's no runner to pay.
in your stores.
In our stores. If it's a runner,
I walk into a store, so you were actually giving the player a lot more money.
we're giving them 600 versus 500. Some instances it's 700. We definitely pay a lot more.
So you paid a lot more. You didn't cut them off. Your money went back into the community. There was no such fund. It was disposable income. That's pretty called microeconomics, isn't it?
It is, and there's another component. We used to basically service the store. Like, say, for example, every Saturday we would have a party, maybe buy a whole bunch of chicken. Everybody who came and played, right? They had something to eat. Maybe they, something to drink. Maybe
I know you used to have big Christmas party to give out toys to the kids and stuff.
Block parties,
stuff like
which
that.
was financed by the number people.
And a few of your number stores, you had soup kitchens next to for people that were homeless.
Right.
Am I not correct?
Yes. Yes.
So that was a nice thing, right?
I thought it was nice. I obviously wasn't happy when they turned it legal. I mean, obviously it put a big hurting on on the illegal business.
And did it cause the neighborhoods to have more poverty? I would say yes, right?
I would absolutely say yes, of course. Less people had jobs, right? And don't forget, with the illegal business, we also had runners. The runner, I could be a runner. You could be a runner. Anybody be a runner. And they'll make 25 to 30% on their gross. So let's say a family's doing poorly. The guy could decide to take some numbers. He takes, let's say, $200 a day, 25%, $50 a day. That's $350 a week. That money goes directly into his pocket. And, by the same token,
basically what you're telling me, they've exponentially grown this. They've hurt the merchant that puts the terminal in, that does the numbers. They make them pay for it. They make them pay for the electricity. They make them pay for the electric. They give them 6%. And that's what they give back to the community for disposable income. The rest of the money is supposed to lower our taxes. That is not happening. And there's a slush fund somewhere that nobody knows where it goes.
I don't know where it goes, that's for sure. I don't think
you know where your money went, right? Back into the community, in your pocket. You bought cars, you bought this, you bought jewelry.
Of course.
You invested in real estate. I mean, you paid taxes on that. So they pay no taxes on their income. They're hurting the merchant that puts the thing in. They have to pay their employees out of their own pocket, pay the electricity, play the terminal, shut their players down, and what they give for that is 6%.
Yeah, and if you have a big hit, you probably have to go downtown to collect your money, which is another difficulty.
Yes.
Because that money is taxed, of course.
So they're retaxing where they're not getting taxed on, which they're slushing.
Right.
All right. I just wanted to understand it because I'm a little confused. Sports betting was a little different. Now that it's legal. Also, there was competition, as you said, but there were rules that were set up, correctly? You could only open a store so far from another store?
Yeah, there was something called a 2-block law. And this was put in by actually the one who, I won't say decreed, but originated it was Fat Tony.
Fat Tony, okay.
Yeah, they had a meeting up on 115th Street in the Palmer Club. Everybody got together and they decided, look, we're not going to argue over, where our spots can go. So what's reasonable? They said, all right, you have a spot here. You can't open another number spot within 2 blocks. And that law was really, basically everybody upheld that.
Because it was common sense.
Common sense. And you would, if you wouldn't want somebody opening a store closer to you. So if you opened up one and inadvertently there was a store, you'd close the store. That'd be the right thing to do.
So when you say a store, basically what your store was, you walked in, you set up, there was a cage to purchase your number and get a receipt.
Yeah.
And you gave out beverages and food, had parties, and then the number would come out, people would collect their money and come to the store.
And there were actually contingent benefits too. For example, sometimes we'd be in the back of a beauty parlor. So people come into play, and what would they do? They'd get their hairstyle, especially the ladies. Right. Spend the day there. So there was more money that was recycled. Right. It certainly helped. There's no question about it.
So you were neighborhood people oriented.
Yeah, of course. And sometimes if we had a big store, and this is something I'm just thinking of right now, we would have security in the store. Right. Someone to make sure no one got out of hand. So if someone was having a problem in front of the store or on the block, that security guard might step in and
help other people there.
help out innocent people. So overall, I would say it really helped the neighborhood.
Okay, so I really believe that legalized gambling is destroying the economy and the hustle of people making a few dollars on it.
Right.
It's not going back into the economy. That's my belief.
Of course. I mean, it just goes, it's just kind of obvious that that's the truth.
Okay. And you also had security. They kept the people secure. You fed the homeless. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
You gave parties. You gave away gifts. There was actually times that I know of in your stores when people didn't have money for heat. They would go to the store and you would say, okay, turn your heat on. We'll take it off when you win.
Yeah. And this would apply to now, but sometimes we had people who slept in the store, which again, I guess it's not legal, but they did it and they were off the street. And those guys would maybe help clean the floor, mop everything, clean the toilet down, get everything nice and sparkling.
So you were neighborhood oriented and people oriented.
Yeah. And they would get the benefit of sleeping in a warm spot.
So you don't see any benefits of legalized gambling with the number for the people?
I don't think anybody does. I mean, you hear it all over, whether you're listening to a conservative station or a liberal station, we don't know where the money goes. And I think every one of the taxpayers realize that. You pay taxes, they have these programs, they say, oh, we're giving $300 million to Africa for internet service, 25 million to China for gender issues. Money goes all over. What happens to it? We just gave today, we released $6 billion for some hostages from, in a deal with Iran.
But that guy that has nowhere to sleep is still sleeping on the street.
Yeah.
Not when you had a store.
Not what we had in mind. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't want homelessness, because people won't travel out of their house, especially if the people who are on the street know that person might be carrying money to gamble with, or might be taking home hit money.
You ran your operation similar to what I did. I had apartments, payrolls, runners, lookouts.
Pickup men
Yes.
who would pick up the money or deliver the money.
Yes. And we took care of our neighborhoods,
Absolutely.
It wasn't the violence people made it out to be or the insanity.
No, and I know this isn't something you don't think of right away, but people get to know each other.
Yes.
Right? Sense of community. You're in there gambling, you're both betting on the same number to come out of the same number to come in the lead. They start talking, they become friends. I think it was helpful all over the place.
So it's fair to say that there's going to be 45 million people betting on legalized gambling in sports with a gross revenue of $12 billion.
Right.
That's significant. You add in the other $500 million for the numbers, and it's not hard to figure out how much they make on Lotto, Mega Millions, and whatever. Where does that money go? That goes into the hundreds of billions. That's my concern here.
Well, I mean, it has to be listed somewhere where that money goes. I don't know, but
didn't we have a Boston Tea Party about all this?
Yeah, I think so.
Taxation without representation.
Yeah, I just missed it, but we had it. That's for sure.
We had it, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm curious to know, because I took a lot of business classes. I have a lot of degrees and stuff like that. Disposable income is what makes any culture viable and healthy.
Of course.
Administrative costs and not knowing where the money goes, that doesn't help anybody, right?
Absolutely. And the people love their number spots. They became friends with the people who were
right. That they'd hit a number, they go buy a pair of shoes next door or take a trip or whatever.
Right. Because they got the money on the spot.
When I'd have a good week, it was good for everybody.
Right.
Absolutely. When my people were sick, they still got paid.
Right.
When they passed away, may they rest in peace, we buried them.
We would send baskets of flowers if there was, let's say the parent of one of our players died, or a sister or someone. We would send something to the funeral.
We would send
food. Sent to community.
Yeah. We would send food.
Yeah.
We would send food, especially if somebody had a fire in the neighborhood. We fed them every day, put them in one of the locations. I would shut that down. Some of them were apartments. We were very community minded. I would like to know where this money goes, who's got it, and who are they giving it to?
Well, where have they been giving it to? For the
I mean,
50
it's
years.
in the hundreds of billions yearly, and that's on a state level. Never mind what it is on a national level.
It's the same problem.
Yeah. Now, Bob, you had some problems also that you were erroneously and falsely accused of homicide. Is that correct?
Yes, back in the 80s.
Back in the 80s.
All this is years ago.
Yes. Is there anything you'd like to talk about that with? Can you talk about that?
Well, just that it seems as if law enforcement, especially at that time, was focused on anything to do with an Italian organization. Of course, I represented the Italian interest. I was an associate of the Lucchese crime family. And I'd say I was targeted. I mean, you had rampant murders all over the place with people who actually did commit the murders. I'm an innocent person. I guess there was some rats or something giving, incorrect information to the authorities, and they arrested me.
I don't know what you mean about Lucchese crime family. I have a Lucchese pool stick here. Does that have anything to do with it?
Well, it could be.
Yeah.
That stick is responsible. But look, that's what they call it. So I'm using their jargon, okay? I didn't investigate it, but that's what they called it.
So you didn't call yourself the Lucchese crime family, right?
Are you kidding? Of course not.
So that was just a name that was stigmatized upon you.
That was a moniker that I received because I knew a couple people who were Italian. I used to meet them down on Prince Street or something like that. And then they saw me as Italian.
And you're Austrian, right?
Excuse me?
You're Austrian, correct?
Yes.
By nationality?
Austrian and Irish, yeah.
Yeah, you look a little bit like Christopher Plummer in Sound of Music.
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is you had a very affluent and you had some Italian associates that you did business with. You gave back to the community. You had disposable income. You helped the homeless. You fed the hungry. You had people that were security helping police the neighborhood.
Yes.
And you were erroneously charged with a murder because you were stigmatized as an associate of the Lucchese crime family.
Yes, in their words, not mine. Like I said, I didn't create that moniker.
Right, but people read it, they see it, it never ends.
It was on the front page. I mean, of course, who's going to,
How did that murder charge end up, Bob?
It ended up the case was dismissed because of lack of evidence. There was no evidence.
I'm very familiar who your partners were and stuff, and a gentleman by the name of Petey, his close family is, I believe it's his nephew and his brother's son-in-law, godfathers to my son.
Okay. So, I mean, exactly. Those are the people that I used to see. I got introduced them through a friend of mine in college, and we became friends. And yeah, I did.
Did you ever go anywhere and say, I represent the Lucchese crime family?
Of course not.
Did you ever get introduced as, I am an employee of the Lucchese crime family?
No.
Did anybody on the street say, hi, Bob, how's the Lucchese crime family doing?
No, not at all.
Okay. When you gave the soup, the chickens, the toys, the heat, the guards away, did anybody come up and thank the Lucchese crime family?
No, but every article about me mentioned the Lucchese crime family. So
they painted that brush and that stigma, even though you're Austrian, you're a Lucchese crime family guy.
First Austrian, I guess.
Yes. So my position on that situation is very, very simple. That even if you're not Italian, you are going to be stigmatized and persecuted and prosecuted for being Lucchese because they branded that name like they branded Colombo.
Absolutely. I mean, don't forget, law enforcement, they like to investigate a case about concerning someone like me because there's no danger to them. If I get arrested, I'm not going to fight back. They know that. We don't have weapons, right? So it's low-hanging fruit for them. So that's what I think happened.
So it's a lot of cluck for their buck.
Yeah, and no risk. What's the risk? I mean, if you go after someone who's basically shooting it out on the street, you could get shot yourself. But they know we didn't do that.
So I like to play numbers. So they take advantage of the person I get to play the numbers with.
Right.
They're slow paying. I get taxed on it, and I do like to play numbers, right?
Right.
They have shut me down to go play a number. There's too much on it.
Right. Yeah.
But otherwise, you led a pretty fun lifestyle. Is that not correct?
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
I
that
think
was one of my
there's a
goals.
picture of you singing at Studio 54. You were a regular.
Yeah, that was.
Is that correct?
Yeah, all through those years. I loved to go out, have fun, party it up. And Studio 54 was the place back then.
Yeah. You've owned strip clubs. Matter of fact, you took advantage of Donald Trump in one area. Is that not correct?
Yes.
You tried to buy, I believe, if I remember the story, you tried to purchase two apartments in Trump Towers and to make it one bigger one. He wouldn't let you do it.
I did purchase the two apartments.
Yeah, but one above the other. Then you took the ceiling out and made it one giant one with spiral, right?
Yep, on the 59th and 60th floor. But
yeah, he got aggravated with you, right?
Yeah. But I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. I just want to make that clear.
What's that?
Like, Donald didn't do anything wrong.
No. I'm not saying he did, but you got around him.
Yeah. Yes. I was the one who was manipulating a little bit.
You actually manipulated Donald.
We'll use a euphemism, manipulated.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty good euphemism because you did it.
Yeah.
Policy was, no pun intended, that you couldn't make two out of one, so nobody would have a better apartment than anybody else.
Yes.
And you just wanted a bigger one, so it didn't say anything about drilling through the ceiling to make one.
They didn't appreciate it.
At that time, what did you pay for those apartments, Bob?
They were about, I think, $900,000 each.
And you're going back to what, 80s, right?
The 80s, yeah, the early 80s.
That was big money.
That was a lot back then.
So that branding of the name Lucchese Crime Family also had you saying it at certain points.
Well, what do they say? A lie, a lie spoken 1,000 times becomes the truth.
Could you repeat that?
A lie spoken 1,000 times becomes the truth.
Well, here
that was a quote from Gorbel
here on Taking Action, we try to tell the truth 1,000 times.
Well, I don't know. That's going to be a rough one.
I'm prepared for that fight.
Okay. It's much more enticing when you like basically fluff everything up. You have to spice it up.
I find that the truth is always more compelling and interesting than a lie.
Well, you don't have to have a good memory with the truth. That's for sure.
We were raised, be respectful and tell the truth.
Right. Absolutely.
Bob, you've been a great guest. I am a number player myself. I'm very disgruntled. I don't play as much the legal numbers I did the illegal number.
Right.
But as far as the community, the economy, and the United States of America, which I cannot speak for, we'd like to thank you for taking care of the homeless, keeping the neighborhood safe, giving food to who needed it, and being fair.
Well, you certainly carried this whole conversation here because for me, it was a case of first impression.
But at the end of the day, you gave back and you were a conscientious human being.
I'm not a mean person. I guess that would sum it up. I'm a nice person.
Yes. We're gonna show that clip of you singing at Studio 54. Is there anything you'd like to talk about, Bob?
No, that's it. I'm good. I'm better at answering questions than asking them.
So I think we're gonna wrap it up for today. Thank you.
All right, Chris. Thank you so much for calling on me.
All right, you got it.
I appreciate it. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
And let's hear it. A New York welcome, Manhattan welcome for R.J. Hopkins.
And I need you, and I need you in the morning, baby.
Welcome back to Taking Action. Chris Colombo, Anthony Conover. Anthony, if you don't know him, is our media guy, and he's an expert on statistics, and he's probably one of your biggest fans of sports. Just remember, when you see us, hit a thumbs up and hit subscribe. And don't forget to give me a comment. I do read the comments. I don't watch the show. Okay, Anthony, what did you think about week 2 in the NFL?
A lot of ups and downs, some injuries that, obviously nobody can predict those that obviously affected some of the games.
The majority of injuries happen in the first 3 weeks. Why I don't like the handicap in the first 3 weeks, or no good handicapper will, is because of injuries. In preseason, they don't play full throttle. They may have a tune-up game here and there. They don't put their starters in. So if something's going to happen, it's going to happen then, and the rhythm doesn't get down until the 4th week in the season, inherently. My picks on the first week were good. I think I was 4 for 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Second week, let's talk about that for a minute. Okay. If I had to do it again, I would pick the same things because the reasons were correct. Okay. Patriot game, the way I handicap, I gave the edge to the defense. They had lost one cornerback coming in.
Yep.
We couldn't help that. The second one going out, they weren't that deep. That was the reason for that problem. Plus, I don't think Bill Belichick is getting along too well with his coaches this week.
Yeah, there's probably some screaming going on in that meeting.
Well, let me explain to you why. Just like a team isn't in rhythm, you have an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, they have assistants, they have trainers. If they're not working in unison, and that's part of the things they put out. The one touchdown where the guy ran straight back was a wrong defensive call. That is a prevent defense when you're up a ton. They were probably nervous because they lost their cornerbacks, left their people back, and they felt they were up a few at that point, and they could coast. Not the case. Also, I saw something that the Rams kicked the field goal with 1 point to tie the spread. You could tell me the cows come home, you did that for extra points at the end of the year. At the second week of the season, you're not interested in that. So this is one of the things that are going to see if we going to affect us from handicapping. It's not a bad thing. We just know that the Rams want to lose by not as much as they're betting or win by as much. Now, I don't know whether the league sanctions it or whatever. He could tell anybody that story. I've been around too long. Okay. The game that concerned me the most was the Browns game. Losing their running back wasn't good.
Big blow to the offense.
Big blow to the whole scheme of the game. You got to remember, the offense dictates how long the defense is on the field.
Absolutely.
Well, if the offense is in there and your running game runs down the clock, not your passing game. So if your defense is on the field too long, your defense is going to be affected by it. Got my point?
Absolutely.
You look at it one-dimensionally, I look at it six-dimensionally. Okay. Starting out, if you gave me those choices to bet again, nobody could predict an injury. That running back, I think, is one of the finest in the league.
Absolutely.
I think he controls the middle of the field. I think he punishes the offensive line the way he runs. It was a big blow to the game. So my opinion is that I cannot, and nobody can predict the injuries, but they are preeminent in the first 3 weeks of football.
And just how important he is, he actually averages the third highest yards per carry in NFL history. He is third on that list. So he averages about 6 yards per carry in the fourth quarter. So he wears everybody down.
I don't care if it's him or any other running back. He was a statistic in my handicapping. And that statistic, time used off the clock,
yep,
getting into the secondary, bringing the linebackers up, which allows you to be able to make a pass. They got to draw back. If you have a running game, that's why the running game dictates the passing game and vice versa. Like you'll see them throw a pass 60 yards, and it's 10 yards ahead of you. That's to pull the defense back off them to set up their running game. So I look at football a little differently because I've coached 31 years. And I've taken all of Vince Lombardi's clinics. And I think he was the best coach that ever stepped on the field. Him and George Hallis. Got to put Don Shula in there. Got to put Tom Landry. Got to put Chuck Noll. And Bill Belichick is definitely there. Let's go over this week. But I will tell you, I did bet the Minnesota Vikings with the Eagles. And I said it. And that's a game that was 7. I thought it was too high. I said they were going to win, but not by 7. As a bookmaker, I would have put it out at 6.5. Everybody would have laid that 6.5 for me till the cows came home. And there was no shot of getting middle decided there. Well, and I had the hook.
Yes, you did.
I had the hook.
All right, let's get into week 3 then. So the Giants at the 49ers, it opened up at a 9.5-point spread. It's gone to 10 now, with the Giants being underdogs.
Let me explain something when they say it's open up or gone. Okay, as a bookmaker, the only power you have is to move your line. You can decide where people are going to go or push them off the game or send them to take or lay a bad line. That's what I want them to do. People gamble with that line to the bookmakers. I do not. That hook is important. If you see a 7, you see a 6.5, and that's supposed to dictate the money line, which a lot of people like to lay a take, but they're not really being fair about it. There's a service called Don Best. Don Best provides, when you're on the computer, if you used to bet with illegal bookmakers on the computer, it was his service. They just rented it to you and rented it from him or bought the rights to it or whatever. But inherently, even before it was computers, there used to be a booklet that gave the numbers. So when we got the lines from each other on a Saturday, you would just go down and say 3 is 17, 5 is 2, and wherever the number was the favorite, down 35 teams. That was Jim Feist. Somewhere in the early 90s, it switched to Don Best. I knew because I asked, did you pick up the new booklets? They got Jim Feist. They went through the lines. I had a Saturday where you had like Duquesne, 38 points over somebody. But there was a rule in my business. If the line was out more than 5 points and my guys made a mistake, it was a no bet. If you could smarten my guys into making a silly mistake, 5 points, I lived with it. But we knew we would never be a line out 5 points because you rarely move a football game 5 points unless there's an injury. Okay, Don Best will give you all the lines where the bookmakers are at, the islands. It'll give you all the lines where Vegas is at, and he will show you the smart money in which way it's going and as it's moving. And then there will be an opening line, a present line, and at the end, what it closed at. So you'll have an idea where the volume of money is you can track. You'll have an idea where the smart money is. There isn't a bookmaker or a smart gambler in the world that doesn't subscribe to Don Best. Do I always agree with Don Best? No, but consistently, he sets the standard. It's his software, and he corrects the work for I believe, even the legal bookmakers, all the island bookmakers, and most of Vegas. So he's like a hidden secret in the industry. Bettors don't want you to know about it because it's a bookmaker's secret. Don Best Sports. Okay, and I believe you get his lines of those opening for free. A bookmaker would want them because it's real time. It's a $500 package a month and a $300 package a month. And then he provides you with the sportswear to be a bookmaker, and he gives picks too. But I'm not comfortable with his picks because I could just set the lines, move the lines, provide the things. So, but as a whole, if you're going to handicap sports, it's free. It's not real time when he's doing it, but it'll give you a good idea. And once you do start making money as a player, it's the way to go. Okay.
And all these lines are from Don Best, the opening and
I don't do it any other way. And part of the reason week 2 is you left my Don Best stuff out.
I did.
And that was a problem. Okay. All right. Giants opened up at 9.5. 49ers. When I say 49ers, the line next to it at 44.5. We're going to get into totals later on in the season. It's too early and it's more complex. Okay. 49ers are 10-point favorite, which means the money is on the 49ers, which naturally. You could talk what you want about that game. 49ers are a solid club. They're worth every point of the 10 points, but I don't lay 10 points. Unless it's a playoff game and they can't afford to have a team have 2 miracle touchdowns or miracle things, because it can happen in 30 seconds. Or a division game.
Yeah.
So
staying away from this game. I mean, even though the Giants, Saquon Barkley's out, their running back, their left tackle's out in this game, and one of their linebackers is out. But like you said, 10 points is a lot. It's the NFL. Anything can happen.
No, people will coast. You could be up by 21, and then the next thing you know,
the Vikings score that last minute touchdown.
Yes, that was a give-me touchdown. I counted on it.
Chargers opened 2.5-point favorite. It is now turned into a pick'em against the Vikings.
Vikings are tough at home.
I don't like the game at all. Chargers always lose games they should lose or they should win. Vikings always up in the air. Yeah.
I'm going with the Chargers.
Okay.
And I'll explain why to you next week.
Oh, I like
I'm not betting the game. If you have to,
twist the arm again.
right. Chargers.
Saints at Packers. Saints started out as a 3-point underdog, and
Packers were -3 and went to 2.
yes.
Okay. So that means that people are betting the Saints. I don't like the game. Packers are tough at home. Too early in the season. Go ahead.
Texans at Jaguars. Jaguars are a 7.5-point favorite. Line moved up to 9.5.
Okay, I bet the game at 7. 9.5, it's a different game, but that was my pick of the week at 7.
Yes, it was.
Now it's 7.5, it's a different game. At 8, it's a different game. You're talking about 2.5 points. Doesn't take a genius to say that the smart money and the volume of money is on the Jaguars. Because it's not just money volume that moves it with Tom Best. He's saying the smart money. That's a solid 2 points. That's a move. I like the Jaguars. I bet the Jaguars. I can't bet at 9.5. I don't know if I'd have laid it. It took everything in me for the 7.5. Or 7, excuse me.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. We move on. The Broncos at the Dolphins. Dolphins opened up as a 6-point favorite. It's now 6.5. People thinking the Dolphins are the best team in football right now, some of them. So
I don't care what people think. You people are going to bet and you want to win. Go to the bank at the end of the month when your car payment's due and tell them what people think.
not getting much.
All right. Broncos, I liked last week, and they were doing their thing.
They certainly were. Up 18.
Up 18, the game went, but then there was that hit unnecessarily in the end zone. I don't understand that hit, because if you catch the ball and you hit the guy, you already caught it, pops out, it's still a touchdown. At that point, players in the NFL become more than aware. The game has evolved where headhunting and hits, I mean, you come over the middle, you know you're going to get punished, but a helmet to helmet and a defenseless hit in the end zone is inexcusable behavior. And I think even the defense backed up at that point because they didn't want to pay aggressively. I texted you and I says, shut the game off. We've lost this one. This defense is not coming out to hit hard anymore. They didn't agree with their teammate, and they want to show the nation they didn't. And it took the spunk right out of them, and it put the spunk into the.
I was going to say, you texted me and said it woke the other team right up, and
well, it should.
And they obviously went on to end up actually winning the game.
Yes,
so
because motivation is a very big part of the game. That's why you'll see when you slow the game down with a challenge, and the challenge doesn't go the right way, the whole momentum sways.
Absolutely. Titans at the Browns. The Browns opened up as a 4.5-point favorite. It's down to 3.
Any injuries for the Browns?
Well, Nick Chubb is out for the season with that knee injury, and I believe that is it.
He's a very important part of that offense.
Actually, they lost an offensive lineman the first week of the season as well.
Yeah, but Nick Chubb makes a difference. I don't think they have a running back that could support their offensive scheme.
They just went out and they signed Kareem Hunt, who was with them last season, been there a few years, but he was a free agent. I don't think he'll be ready conditioning-wise. So,
thank you for that, Anna.
Hey, got to let the people know what everybody.
It's very hard to hand your ball. I don't know what their offensive scheme is this year. The point of the matter, it's not tested. If it ain't tested, how do you know? Flip a coin. I still would take the points, but I would stay away from that game.
The Bills at the Commanders. The Bills were a 5.5-point favorite.
I warned you about 5.5-point games.
You did.
And where did it go?
It went to 6.5. So the Bills are now a 6.5-point favorite visiting the Commanders.
They went to 6.5 because they don't want to get middle-sided. I got to tell you, here and now, the Commanders have showed me a lot.
Yes.
When they're rallied to come together or they spark, the Bills by far are a high-powered offense. Allen does not know how to step out of bounds. He does not know how to throw a ball away. Their defense showed me a lot, but not everything. That's my arm. I would have to go with the Commanders.
Yeah, I like the Commanders in this one as well.
I'm finished now.
Oh, no. I think we'll be fine. Like you said, home team underdog. They have
preeminently in the playoffs.
Yes, they have.
That's why everybody wants to play well for what?
Home field advantage.
Right. Hey,
look at that. I believe they have the sixth.
And it could be a good excuse to kick a field goal with 1 second.
Yeah, apparently.
Right.
Point differential, very important.
Very important.
Yeah, it's only
like number 73 on a list of 74.
Yeah, but very important.
Very important.
Commanders, I believe, have the 5th best offense in the league so far. They got a new offensive coordinator this year. One of their defensive ends who was out all of last year is back this year. So I like that game as well.
I think they're coming to play.
I would agree with that.
I think that shot that guy took in the end zone, they felt pushed around. I think they're a young team. I think they had some transitional problem by changing their name. We got to remember.
New owner this year, too.
What?
New owner this year, too.
Yes, that's important, too. But also changing your name. Also, when you're flying under the flag of a certain name, and I don't want to get into the politics of whether it's right or wrong, but changing your name could affect you. That's why the Utah Jazz started out in New Orleans. They kept the name Jazz. That's why the Lakers started out in Minnesota, Kevin. But they're a Wisconsin team. There are no lakes in L.A., but that area is indigenous to the 7 Great Lakes and many smaller ones that feed them. So I think with a new team, new name is coming, a new thing. They certainly took their hits. They played with no name. It's just the Washington team.
Football team.
So I think they're becoming to get a sense of themselves. Twist it.
I'm twisting.
I don't bet all these games. I like the Commanders, but I'm not betting them. Go ahead.
Colts at the Ravens. The Ravens opened up as an 8.5-point favorites and is now down to 8.
8's a lot of points. It's more than a touchdown. I just don't like the game.
Yeah, the Colts quarterback is still in concussion protocol. Don't know if he's actually going to play, so it might be their backup this week. But as you say, 8 is a lot of points.
Right.
Patriots at the Jets. It started out as a pick'em, actually, and now the Patriots are 2.5-point favorites on the road.
Well, that's a great defense, and I hail that team. They have no confidence in their quarterback, right or wrong. They have no confidence. He did do enough for them to win, but he was not even, like I said, Mr. Rogers, Aaron Rodgers, Buck Rogers wasn't a component. Him being there is a component, and they don't play for him.
Patriots have also won, believe it or not, 14 straight games against the Jets.
Yes, but not very good against the spread.
No.
Not good at all. Normally, I would take the Jets. When I say take is the points, they played them in their glory years, but every game except one was decided and go back further than the 14 by 3 points or less. So the fact that it's 2.5, I stay away from that game. Every meeting in that division, except for one game in the last umpteen years, only one was decided by more than 3.
Always a lot of close games with that.
And I got to tell you right now, I don't think the Jets are going to win that game by 3. If they do, I hope they do. I hail that defense. I hail that special teams. That is a solid team just looking for a leader. And they got dealt a bad hand. You don't have to twist my arm. If I had to go somewhere in that game, I like the Patriots.
Okay.
I'm not betting the game, but I'm not going to tell you to stay away from it. If you like that game in your heart, you have reasons, so be it. Go ahead.
Bears at the Chiefs. Line open up at 11.5. It is now 12.5.
Bears have always had a punishing monsters in the midway.
Well, a lot of turmoil in their defense right now. The defensive coordinator just resigned, apparently got raided by the FBI.
That happened to me. I kept bookmaking. Didn't affect me in line moving. Forget about it. And they come hard. Helicopters, machine guns, that nice stuff. Battering rams.
To your wonderful doors, they did that.
Did you see that? That's why I leave the key in the door now. I'm kidding? Those door books are expensive. It's not nice they do those doors. They hand carved. With old Italian Georgie Bellina, may rest in peace. It's handmade doors. Not nice. I leave the keys in the door. I leave them open. Don't knock them. I just come on in. So anyway, what do you think I got in here? A bat? So it's a lot of points. Chiefs have a full-blown offense. When they're in motion, they stay in motion. But Mahomes is learning to control the clock better, step out of bounds, and throw the ball away. Those are the things that Tom Brady does. He evaluates a bad defense, and when he has to turn it on, there's nobody better than him, but he's not risking himself like Allen does every time.
Absolutely.
12.5 points. That's a touchdown, a field goal, an extra point, and a safety. I don't even know how to figure it out.
It's a lot of points.
A lot of
points. Cowboys at the Cardinals. The Cowboys are still opened up as 10.5 points favorites. It's all the way up to 12 now.
They're telling you. I mean, you look at the line, it's going up to 12. I mean, wise guys don't lay that kind of money. Smart players don't lay that kind of money. I mean, I always like the Cardinals against the spread. I'm not a big Cowboy fan as betting since that Clint Longfellow. I forget last week's games. Remember the lesson, forget the experience. Sports bettors hold on to what happened. Every week is a different week. Every half point's a different game. Don't need anybody to tell you who's the better team there.
Absolutely.
But are they the better team this week?
And by 12 points.
That's the big thing. That's up to you, the gambler. I'm not going to influence you because I don't want anybody to say, Chris, I was going to lay those 12. What the hell does he know? He just knows enough that more things can happen at 12 points than they can just to win the game. Go ahead.
Sunday Night Football. The Steelers at the Raiders. It opened as a pick'em, and now the Raiders are 2.5 point favorites.
I would have liked Raiders to pick them. I like Raiders now. I like Raiders tomorrow. I like Raiders.
All right.
Would I bet them from pick 'em to 2.5? That's wise guy money. They were all over that game of pick 'em. The idea, if you have Dylan Best and you like him, is to bet it as soon as the move. That's one of the reasons I love Dylan Best. I wish I could broadcast to you live as the moves. I mean, some of them, as I agree. I don't agree on everything. The wise guys are not always right, but they're going to get the best of it, but they do make mistakes. Go ahead.
Another thing you hate, Chris, there's 2 Monday Night Football games again this week.
Vengeance with a passion.
The Eagles,
it screws up the rotation. It screws up more teams traveling. It screws up everything. I mean, can't they think about the handicapper over here?
And they're playing them at the same time. How am I supposed to know which one to watch? Eagles are at
That was a ridiculous statement.
It's true.
Put up 2 TVs.
Can you buy me another one?
I knew that was coming. What's your fettuccine? Since you got your fettuccine Alfredo today, I pay him in food. Since you got your fettuccine Alfredo today, I haven't produced them. Well, go ahead.
Eagles at the Bucks opened as the Eagles with a 7-point favorite. It is now down to 5.
Go Philadelphia.
I agree. I like this game a lot. With the
Well, I'm
Eagles.
screwed again.
Unbelievable. And
I did not bet it, but I like that side. Go ahead.
And finally, the Rams at the Bengals. Bengals actually opened up.
Eagles, that guideline goes down from 7 to 5. I got to tell you, when that move happens, the wise guys are saying the Bucks is the smarter game. I like the Eagles.
Okay.
Bucks are at home, but what's a powerful team, the Eagles? And I'm going to say why they're powerful. They're balanced.
Absolutely.
And they know how to play under pressure.
I would agree. Last game of the week, Rams at the Bengals. Bengals opened up as a 7.5 point favorite. It's all the way down to them as a 2-point favorite, mainly because nobody sure if Joe Burrow is playing yet.
The quarterback's iffy.
Calf injury, re-aggravated it in the game Sunday.
Burrows plays hard. Believes in what he's doing. I know there's people who don't like him. Maturity will come with the job. He's not taking himself out of games. He's trying to rehab it the best he can. I give him credit. Calf injuries are tough.
Got to be mobile a little bit these days, and obviously
I'm always using my calves to reach for things.
That's the last one of the week. So obviously we hope that everybody has success in week 3.
Every week is a learning experience. Forget the experience, remember the lesson. I don't even remember last week's games. I make notes as I'm watching.
Yep.
And then what I'm doing to each week, I tell Anthony that. I clear my mind. I don't go in with emotion. I go in, I told you who I bet. I told you who my picks are. The first 3 weeks of football, inherently, I don't bet because I am giving it to you. I feel an obligation to put my money up with you. So it would have been a pretty boring show if I would have told you the first 3 weeks of football not to bet. When I was a bookmaker, so I saw it was in the player's advantage or disadvantage It was a straight out. But if you're going to lay 10, 11 points, the first 3 weeks is to do that. And then my philosophies will kick in when you're going to see blowouts. This is Chris Colombo, Anthony Conover. Thank you for joining us. This is Taking Action. This is Chris Colombo. Respectfully, we're in the home of Joe Colombo. Don't forget, any criticisms, any comments, any questions, I will answer. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. We're with you. It's about you, the better, the youth, and we're going to get more advanced as time goes on. Thank you.